Hey, Shalom, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, Waha, Rakakodash, the ones, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace, blessings, salutations to you sincere Akim out there pushing the truth across the four corners of the earth. And I just wanted to hit a couple of scriptures because these areas which are prophesied about, they're all hot right now. You know, everything is hot. You know, we're in those times for sure. And, you know, things we're seeing movement that we haven't seen in years, man. And, you know, things that played out before are now playing out again. I just wanted to bring out an article, a little bit of info, a couple of maps, a couple of scriptures, and then close it out. All right. This one says, no peace talks with Israel without a two-state solution, Saudi Arabia says. The kingdom started to affirm its steadfast position to Washington on the Palestinian issue in the light of the comments. In an unusual move, the Saudi foreign ministry late Tuesday night clarified that Israel must recognize a Palestinian state at the pre-1967 lines to normalize ties with Saudi Arabia. The statement appeared to douse U.S. President Joe Biden's hopes for a trilateral deal between Washington, Riyadh, and Jerusalem this year. The kingdom has communicated its firm position to the U.S. administration that there be no diplomatic relations with Israel unless an independent Palestinian state is recognized on the 1967 border with East Jerusalem as its capital. All right, and basically, for them to allow this would be that would be the cherry on top to show that these people are fraudulent. All right, because once they're in that land, not only is it supposed to be peace, and they're supposed to have these other nations under subjection, but the land is supposed to expand. All right, it talks about originally in was it Deuteronomy 11 and 25. All right, every place whereon the matter of fact, verse 23. This was promised to the Israelites. Then will the Lord drive out all these nations from before you, and ye shall possess greater nations and mightier than yourselves. Every place whereon the soles of your feet shall tread shall be yours, from the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, even unto the uttermost coast shall your coast be. There shall no man be able to stand before you, for the Lord your power shall lay the fear of you and the dread of you upon all the land that ye shall tread upon, as he has said unto you. Which, you know, from the Euphrates, that's all the way over here. You know, that's a lot of land. You know, that's yet to happen. All right, but in the kingdom it talks about that. They you know, they'll talk about the land so straight. And this is future prophecy. For Isaiah 49 and 19, for thy waste and thy desolate places in the land of thy destruction shall even now be too narrow by reason of the inhabitants, and they that swallowed thee up shall be far away. The children which thou shalt have after thou hast lost the other shall say again in thine ears, the place is too strait for me, give place to me that I may dwell. Then shalt thou say in thine heart, who hath begotten me these, seeing I have lost my children and am desolate, a captive? But the point was in verse 20. Yep, and then it goes on to talk about, you know, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles, and you know, their kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their, that's at verse 23, I'm jumping around, with their face toward the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. All right, this is the kingdom of heaven. But basically the point, the place is too straight. Israel is going to expand. Whereas now, you see how it is. It's very small. And the thing he's requesting, like he said, pre-1967, he wants to go back to before the 6-Day War, right? When Israel fought against Egypt. Because basically Egypt had control of this Suez Canal, and they wanted to be able to get through that canal with military operations, and for them to get, from the Mediterranean to the Red Sea. Israel was, of course, you had the Amalekites in Britain, right, who were backing Israel. They wanted to be able to get from Britain through the Mediterranean all the way through the Red Sea, all the way over to India, because India was colonized at the time. And then they had operations in China as well, which I believe was it Hong Kong? All right, one of those cities they had, for 100 years. They China had to surrender it, and that was meant. That's what he meant. The kingdom reiterates its call to the permanent members of the UN Security Council that have not yet recognized the Palestinian state to expedite the recognition of the Palestinian state on the 1967 borders. See, when we took down the Philistines, we took down the other sons of Canaan. All right, that land expanded. Now, Ishmael is coming to the region, which that's who was the president during this time, 67. During the time of the Balfour Declaration. Right, the Balfour Declaration, I believe, of 1917. It was Gamal Abdel Nasser. That's where you get that famous quote, the Jews left black and came back white. And when you try to look for that quote, because I believe they say that was something he said. It was a televised quote, but when you look up that quote in all of his different videos, you can't find it. All right, and I believe that it was it's been what's the word? Because Esau owned all the cameras anyway, so I believe that it's been that's been put in in the archives, private archives. All right, because why would somebody even attribute that quote to him? All right, which he was fighting against Israel. He was I believe he was the second president of Egypt. Right? He's not. Everybody's in a different place, man. He's not. The Arabs, they're not the original inhabitants of Egypt, okay, or Palestine. The Amalekites, you're not the original inhabitants of Israel. You got all these nations fighting for shit that's not even yours. Right, which is evidence of that the true people are not in the land of Israel, because there shouldn't be any fights. And where's Yahweh Shai at? But I'm gonna read through this because this is like I said, all these things, these statements and stuff, all of this had a direct impact on these different world wars. You had pressure on all sides, and then all these nations teamed up and said, look, it's time to go to war. It's too many arguments. It's too many games being played. All right, they were still doing business, of course. The Esau still needed the oil, so they still had to, do certain things in good faith. I'm gonna keep reading. It says the kingdom reiterates its call to the permanent members of the UN Security Council that have not. I read that. Recognize the Palestinian state to expedite the recognition of the Palestinian state on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital, so that the Palestinian people can obtain their legitimate rights, and so that a comprehensive and just peace is achieved for all, it added, which they would be fools to do that. The Foreign Ministry issued its statement after U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited Saudi Arabia on Monday and met with the Crown Prince, blah, 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 long-ass name. The visit, which includes stopping Egypt and Qatar, is billed as one that will advance a Saudi-Israel normalization deal and an agreement with Hamas for the release of more than 130 hostages held in Gaza, which, if I'm not mistaken, Hamas and the Houthis in Yemen are being backed by Iran. And now, Saudi Arabia, they're putting their self in, which they were already in it. But Saudi Arabia and Iran are enemies. Right? But what you're seeing is, the Arab world work in unison. All right, so we know 2nd Esdras 15, where it says, the Arabian will remember his nature. The dragons of Arabia, will remember their nature. All right, Ishmael would dwell amongst his brethren. It said at a press briefing in Doha in Tuesday night, when he arrived in Israel on Wednesday, Blinken spoke optimistically about the possibility of a Saudi-Israel normalization deal. With regard specifically to normalization, the Crown Prince reiterated Saudi Arabia's strong interest in pursuing that. I wanted to go in a little bit on the 6-day war. Yeah, this quote, man, a lot of people, if you're in the know, you know about this quote. It's on Reddit. You have people trying to explain, is a quote anti? A lot of people said no. Then they put their reason, whatever, long bullshit that has nothing to do with the scriptures. They completely take the scriptures out of their reasoning. Like I said, man, what had the wicked to do to declare my statutes? They don't quote. They don't even, they changed the goalposts. But I wanted to read through certain facts about the Balfour Declaration, because the whole legitimacy to the land is being questioned, and it's been questioned before, which led to war. All right. So the Balfour Declaration, issued through the continued efforts of Chaim Weizmann and Nahum Sokolov, Zionist leaders in London, fell short of their expectations of the Zionists who had asked for the reconstitution of Palestine as the Jewish national home. The declaration specifically stipulated that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine. The document, however, said nothing of the political or national rights of these communities and did not refer to them by name. Nevertheless, the declaration aroused enthusiastic hope among Zionists. So this is a Zionist document, and seemed the fulfillment of the aims of the World Zionist Organization. The British government hoped that the declaration would rally Jewish opinion, especially in the United States, to the side of the Allied powers against the Central Powers during World War I. Right, so it was a reason by this. Right, they wanted they wanted support, which this original document, it says a statement of British support for the establishment in Palestine of a national home for Jewish people. It was made in a letter from Arthur James Balfour, the British Foreign Secretary, to Lionel Walter Rothschild, 2nd Baron Rothschild, a leader of the Anglo-Jewish community. Which you're not Anglo. That means, if I'm not mistaken, that means angel. Anglo-Saxon, angelic sons of Isaac. Through the precise meaning of the correspondence has been disputed, its statements were generally contradictory to both the Sykes-Picot Agreement and the Hussein McMahon correspondence, an exchange of letters between the British High Commissioner in Egypt, Sir Henry McMahon, and Hussein ibn Ali, then Emir of Mecca, which in turn contradicted one another. The Balfour Declaration, issued through the continued efforts, blah, blah, blah. We just read through that. It says they hope also that the settlement in Palestine of a pro-British Jewish population might help to protect the approaches to the Suez Canal in neighboring Egypt and thus ensure a vital communication route to British colonial possessions in India. So here it is, which this is all prophecy anyway, that the Idumeans would take over our land. It's was it Ezekiel? But then the one I wanted to get, where it was prophesied, Joel 3 and 2, right? Because not too far from there, we're going to pull up a map. We're going to go into that. It says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. And when you see Israel being parted from Palestine and the West Bank and Gaza Strip, you know, they parted it. They chopped it up, divided it up. They've, you know, we see them going back and forth here. Right? And we're in those days, man. Joel 3 and 1, for behold, in those days in that time when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. That's the time that we're in. They weren't in captivity. Right? They don't fit. And they have cast lots for my people and have given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine, that they may drink. But jumping back, Joel 2 and 20, it says, because this is what's about to happen. All right, the army is about to go up into that region and go to war. It says, but I will remove far off from you the northern army and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face toward the east sea and his hinder part towards the utmost sea, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things. They do wicked things. All right, the east sea is talking about the Euphrates, and then the utmost sea is talking about the Red Sea. All right, so all in this region. And here you can see Saudi Arabia. You know, you had these different Yemen strikes down here. The Houthis out of Yemen, which are being backed by Iran, which is right next door. All right. This is where the old Babylon is, Iraq. Which it can't be, you know, that's not what future prophecy talks about Babylon. It ain't talking about Iraq. Iraq, go to Google Maps and look through Iraq. Ain't shit in Iraq. Right? The height of wickedness is here. Right? You have the Suez Canal, the Suez Gulf. Yeah, this whole region is hot. And like I said, the whole time that this 6-day war thing was going on, Abdul Nasser was the president, and basically, shit, prophecy happened. Esau came through and beat them. You know, Egypt had to follow through. You know, Egypt had to comply. All right, but that was the goal, man. Canals, that's what they wanted to control. Waterways, which that whole region, the Mediterranean and all that, that's always been, you know, when you look at the Greeks, the Persians, everybody wants to control that. The Romans, they want to control that region. But now, you know, it expanded worldwide. They want to be able to get everything out from that region, go through the Red Sea, and get it, you know, sail around Africa, or you know, the bottom of Africa, or take it over east to the rest of Asia, you know, the far eastern part of Asia. They want to control, you know, trade. It says, yet the Balfour Declaration was endorsed by the principal Allied powers and was included in the British Mandate over Palestine, formally approved by the newly created League of Nations, blah, blah, blah. In 1939, the British government altered its policy in a white paper recommending a limit of 75,000 further immigrants and an end to immigration by 1944, unless the resident Palestinian Arabs of the region consented to further immigration. Zionists condemned the new policy, accusing Britain of favoring the Arabs. This point was made moot by the outbreak of World War II. That World War II happened, that second woe, and they said, fuck it. Everybody coming in. Because Esau, they put the hammer down. That's what these world wars were about. They were about Amalek staying in control, really. All right, World War II, we know they fought against, Hitler, the Germans, and then, the rest of the Axis. It was of course Germany, and everybody knows Hitler because they made such a fuss about it and added a lot of history. But then it was also Japan, which had its foot up China's behind, and then it was Italy as well. All right, it was Italy as well. And then, Amalek, once again, they used this to get into that land and take over even more. And this is all done, with the sword. All right, that's what backed up everything. The sword, right? Which it was prophecy. This is how they rule. They rule by the sword. They've taken all over these things. They've changed the landmarks, because you had a landmark to mark your land, basically. And basically, a lot of these countries, they've moved their border, changed names around. All right, but Lord willing, it's edifying. Just wanted to bring that out. The Wadi Habashim Al Shah for the inspiration, and Shalom.